So the 49ers 52-man roster is official. The Niners still need to make one last move for a 53-man roster. And not a lot of big surprises, though there's still a couple, which I'll get to in this video. But look, this year has been a somewhat easier year to evaluate players from the 49ers standpoint. The only questions were how healthy are the Niners at certain positions, and that determined who they kept and who they let go. Let's take a closer look, and let's start at running back. I was initially in belief that the Niners were going to keep 5 backs when I posted this blog. Jermichael Hasty was a long shot. My only question was how many backs the Niners were going to keep, 4 or 5. I thought 4, including the fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, similar like they did last year. But the Niners went 5 backs to the roster to start the year. Not at all crazy, and I'm glad Jeff Wilson Jr. was able to make the roster for the first time since breaking camp, right? He's usually a practice squad player and then later gets promoted. But with that said, I think Hasty, does become an option to add to the practice squad, which I think was the plan all along when they picked him up this year. Still, I'm excited who we have at running back. Whoever you throw in there, I have the confidence they can get it done. A versatile group. You're talking about McKinnon, who can also, play like a receiver almost. Tevin Coleman can catch it off the backfield, Mostert, and even Jeff Wilson. So, a versatile group. There's not one guy that only runs the football. These guys can do it all. So I'm happy there. Moving on to wide receivers, and look, I wanted Jauan Jennings on the 53 initially. I thought his versatility would have probably gotten him in, and with the factors of Debo being hurt, Ayuk being a rookie, and also not finishing camp because of an injury. And then we also didn't know the status of Richie James Jr. I thought the 49ers would carry 7 with the number of injuries they had in camp, but they're keeping 6. And they feel confident with Debo's health, and he came off the injury list. He should be a green light for week 1, which is good news for the 49ers. This is why Jauan did not make the initial roster. You also have Richie James, seems like he's ready to go. So a lot of good news for the receivers ending camp. The Niners look like they will have a similar lineup from last year, removing Emmanuel Sanders, adding Ayuk, Trent Taylor being healthy this year. Now, Jauan Jennings can be a candidate to return to the practice squad. We will see if he goes unclaimed. As it stands, the 49ers have Debo, Ayuk, Bourne, Pettis, Taylor, and Richie James Jr. Moving on to defensive line. The 49ers have 9 defensive linemen in their roster. The surprise move here is Ronald Blair going on short-term IR. Pretty much the pup list. I had him making the 53. I thought he was healthy, but it turns out the big fella still needs some time to recover, which leaves a little bit of a void at backup edge rush. This is the defensive line group in the roster. You have Ford, Bosa, Eric Armstead, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, DJ Jones, Kevin Gibbons, Kerry Hyder, and Contavious Street. Now, I had all of these guys making the team. It makes me happy that Kevin Gibbons finally made the roster after being cut last year. They brought him back later in the year. I really think the interior is deep, with most of those guys being able to rush the inside. Outside pass rush is a little bit thin though. Outside of Ford and Bosa, you do have Eric Armstead, but you'd rather have him inside with Kinlaw, but he's an option. You may see Kerry Hyder, who we haven't seen at all in a 49er uniform yet. He can be used outside if needed. Of course, Solomon Thomas can also be used outside, though he has struggled there, which is why the move back inside last year was a smart one. But the 49ers have a couple of options until Ronald Blair gets back. Plus, if Bosa and Ford can remain healthy for the better part of the year, the backups won't be a huge problem. But again, that's a huge if. And Ford hasn't shown he can stay on the field. So not at all surprised by the group, just a little bit surprised about Ronald Blair being on the pup list. The next group I want to talk about is safety. You had Marcel Harris compete in camp somewhat with Jonathan Cyprien. According to reports, Jonathan looked really good in camp, but I couldn't see the 49ers pass on Marcel Harris after doing so good last year, coming in late in the year, replacing Tart from injury. Again, he was another player that was a practice squad player, later added to the roster. So I'm happy that he was able to crack the 53, but I think the 49ers made the right move here at backup safety. I feel strong about that. Now, lastly, you have the linebacker group, where we're still waiting on the status of Fred Warner right now. He is still on the reserve list, so he doesn't count for the roster right now, and this is why I think the 49ers added Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles to the roster, another guy who was a practice squad player last year. And I feel like the Niners are really confident on the players they pick, and I like that returning players who maybe didn't have a chance last year, they gave them a second chance. And for the most part, we've had 3 guys that were practice squad players make the roster this year: Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, Jeff Wilson Jr., Marcel Harris. All these guys were given a second chance this year, and I'm just happy that they were able to make that initial roster. This is why practice squad, that group of guys, are so important, and the 49ers are showing you how important it really is. If you could develop guys through the practice squad, it's sort of like a little minor league system that you can create. And now the practice squad list grows even bigger this year, so I anticipate the 49ers to continue to do that. But going back to linebacker, a little bit of uncertainty with Warner's status right now. The 49ers only have 52 guys on their roster. Maybe they're waiting it out for Warner to be cleared so the roster move can be seamless for week 1. I hope that's the case. Really hope Warner could get in. He was looking really good in camp. But anyways, guys, let me hear from you. Which roster move this weekend surprised you, if any? Go ahead and drop your comments below. Hey, we have football in a week. Stay tuned. We will be discussing the 49ers week 1 matchup soon against the Arizona Cardinals. You don't want to miss that. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace.